Hey, Shopify Masters listeners, Felix here. We've got a special episode today, and we're catching up with 3 merchants who've previously been on the show. They share updates on their business and how they are adapting to the impacts of the current COVID-19 outbreak. We're chatting with Meade from CROSSNET on how they changed their marketing to adapt to the pandemic, Jess Ekstrom from Headbands of Hope on shifting their business model to donate masks, and Gamal Codner from Fresh Heritage on tripling their marketing budget despite the pandemic. Before we get into our show, I want to share a strategy some businesses are using to help manage cash flow during COVID-19. They're selling gift cards. Gift cards give customers a way to support you right now. We've seen some creative ways to market them, like selling gift cards at a discount, giving special offers for customers who redeem them in the future, and adding free gift cards to high-value cards as a bonus. As part of Shopify's response to COVID-19, gift cards are now available on all Shopify plans, so you can start selling them right away. For more information, visit shopify.com/giftcard. In this update, we're chatting with Meade from CROSSNET. CROSSNET is the world's first four-square volleyball game. You'll learn how their sales blew up by 500% on a daily basis despite the pandemic. So what was the original effect of COVID-19 on your business?
Yeah, so when COVID-19 had started, we really in that first week, we saw an increase in site visitors, and which led to an increase in conversion and sales. And since it's been about or roughly 2 months into this thing, we've seen sales go up over 500% on a daily basis over the last 2 months. So it's been a really crazy impact to our business.
That's crazy. What do you attribute the cause for that kind of spike in traffic and revenue?
Yeah, so it's twofold. So there's obviously more people on their phones and on their computer kind of looking to kill time and engaging with ads. On the opposite end of the spectrum, there is a little less people running advertisements. So the Facebook marketplace has been a little bit more cost effective for our business. So we've been able to ramp up our ads as we've seen our cost per acquisition drop. So it just kind of makes sense from a business perspective there. And then for the actual game, the 4-way volleyball net, right? It's a perfect recreational tool for anybody who's kind of stuck at home. I live in Miami, so I don't have that backyard or the front yard, but the majority of the United States has some patch of grass that they go out and stretch their legs and burn some calories and play with their family if they're stuck home and everybody's safe. So it's been a really cool game, and we've seen customers just absolutely love it.
That makes sense. So clearly lots of the market change, the dynamics of the marketplace changed where people were at home, people spend more time online, there's less competition for those impressions online, helped you guys drive more traffic to your store. Were there any things that you did purposefully since then to I guess position your business or position your products in a way that I guess is helping you thrive during this time?
Yeah, I think we've definitely taken a more empathetic approach. I know on the customer service side, we have staffed up tremendously. Like we made 5 different new hires over this time just to be responding to everybody's customer service inquiries, phone calls. I know financial situations are changing every second. So somebody needs to cancel, somebody needs to expedite. We're doing as much as we can to just kind of make everybody feel heard and listened to. And then on the advertisement side, we've taken a less approach of buy now to better days are ahead, right? We're looking forward to the summer. We're looking forward to going back to the beach and having fun with our friends and family. And if you are quarantined and you're safe with a family and you have 4 people that could play, perfect. CROSSNET's for you right now. If you're not in a situation with 4 people, maybe CROSSNET's for you in a few months, and just buy this now and stash it away because good times are coming. So it's less of a buy now and more of a good days are ahead.
Makes sense. So were you able to quickly, I guess, capitalize on this growth in sales? Did you have the operations set up, or did you have to make it sounds like you did a lot of hiring or at least staffed up more when it came to customer service? What about fulfillment or anything else along the supply chain?
Of course. Yeah, so we've hired a few more fulfillment people just to kind of help out with the order production, printing labels, actually moving the inventory on a daily basis. And then on the supply side, we were well stocked for a situation like this, but nobody's fully prepared to see a 500% growth out of nowhere. So our inventory did take a hit. We've been fortunate that our supply chain was able to rush deliver a lot of stuff to our warehouse. So we've been able to crank orders out and keep things going, and we've doubled down just to prepare for a situation if this goes on any longer. So we've overmade inventory just to prepare.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that next. So what other than stocking up inventory, what do you think is your game plan? Like, I guess, how are you guys anticipating any changes or even lack of changes between now and end of the year?
Yeah, for us, we definitely do thrive in the summer because we are a beach product. So our best seasons are supposed to be that June, July, August. So we were expecting it to ramp up, but never to this degree. So what we're kind of preparing for things to stay the same, if not scale even higher this summer, because people are more eager than ever to go back. Like, I can't wait to go to the beach, you know? So I know all of our customers are feeling the same way. So I think our business is going to continue to thrive over the next few months. And the only thing I can do is just prepare for it and keep the advertisements good. And the great thing about it is we've been getting a lot of user-generated content. Families are saying, hey, my kids have been outside for 5 hours today and they love this thing. Or I haven't seen my kids since Tuesday. They're sitting in the backyard all day playing. So we've been getting a lot of testimonials, which is awesome.
That is awesome. And did you see this boost in sales like immediately, or what was the timeline of the sales growing?
Yeah, it was immediate. I think when I'm looking at the calendar right now, I think it was like literally late March when it really started. And it just has not slowed down whatsoever.
Makes sense. And now, before late March, when it was kind of earlier in March, I do remember the timeline, at least in the U.S., there was, I guess early to mid-March, there was signs of a pending recession and the pandemic obviously reaching the U.S. Would you guys do anything ahead of time, or did you have any plan? What did you expect this to happen, or did you expect the opposite to happen?
We really didn't know, to be fully transparent with you. Like, the game is $150, right? So it's not the most affordable product and it's not a necessary product. But I think as time has gone on, people have become really, really desperate for something fun to do and different. How many times can you sit there and watch Netflix, right? I remember just even myself, I'm shopping on Facebook Marketplace for the first time trying to find dumbbells to purchase. So people are really looking for something fun to do and get outside and stretch their legs and have fun. And CrossNet's been perfect for them. So we weren't fully prepared. I would be lying to you if we were. But fortunately, we did have even things like Afterpay, which is something that allows for our customers to do payment plans. So maybe they don't have $150, but they have $30 to throw to it. We could get them the net, and as long as they're making the payments, everything's good.
That makes sense. So it sounds like you guys are in great position, but then also took steps to essentially capitalize on the need of your customers for entertainment and things to do with their family or the people that they're living with. When you think about how to continue to keep the company healthy, where do you foresee yourself focusing your resources? Like, where do you feel like you want to prepare your business for if this extends longer? Is it in cash? Like, what is it that you think that you would want to spend your time in kind of building up resource wise?
Yeah, so right now my biggest thing is to get the customers who are playing to actually keep going out and having fun and driving the sport forward. I think we talked about this last time. It's just like, on one hand, we're selling a product, but on the other hand, we're growing a sport, and the sport needs to last longer than the product does. So we need to keep getting people outside, keep playing, keep pushing the sport forward. And the best way we do that is just by driving competition, driving tournaments when the world's able to go back to kind of some sort of normalcy. So having tournaments and events. And then from the social media side, we're running competitions daily. Like, who sends us the best piece of content will give you a $50 Amazon gift card or money back on your order, $50 to your favorite local restaurant. So we're running contests to build motivation, and then also we're getting UGC out of it, which is great to repurpose.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming on and sharing your experience during this, new age that we're living in. In this next update, I'm joined by Jess Ekstrom from Headbands of Hope. Headbands of Hope offers a wide range of beautiful headbands and hair accessories for all ages. For every item purchased, one headband is donated to a child with cancer. You'll learn how they shifted their model and were able to donate over 100,000 masks to over 200 hospitals in a few weeks. So can you describe your business and what you sell before the pandemic happened?
So at Headbands of Hope, we sell headbands, and for every headband sold, we donate one to a child with cancer. It was something I started when I was a junior in college, had no idea what I was doing, but realized that a lot of kids who were losing their hair to chemotherapy loved to wear headbands.
Awesome. Okay, so that's certainly an amazing mission, and we're getting a bit to talk about how think that has changed a bit since the pandemic. But can you tell us about what was your immediate reaction after all the lockdowns started happening, after the pandemic hit? I think in North America that was probably around early to mid March.
Yeah, it was actually kind of crazy. We had a conference that we were planning March 21st. And so I was like, if I could pick the worst date to host a conference, that would have been it, because everything really started to unfold the week before. And I remember when I started hearing buzz about COVID, it was something that like you didn't know if it was real, how serious it was. Is it going to affect me? It was just this big cloud of uncertainty. So you just kind of kept moving as if things were just going to go back to normal. Like it was like a hurricane that was just going to come through one day and be gone. And then when I realized that this was something that was going to be much bigger than that, you kind of reach this crossroads where you have to make a decision. And one of the things I say in my book, Chasing the Bright Side, is that hard times actually give us a choice. They can be the excuse as to why we do less, or they can be the reason as to why we do more. And so in that moment, we decided to pivot. We realized that there was a lot of hospitals that needed masks. There wasn't enough masks to go around with everything that was needed at hospitals around the country. So we shifted our model to pause the donation of headbands and instead donate masks. And in just a few weeks since this all started, we've donated over 100,000 masks to over 200 hospitals around the country.
That's amazing. And did you find that the customers that you have like rallied behind this new mission, and so you saw a spike in sales or a spike in people that are coming to buy because they wanted to support this mission?
Absolutely. And I think that when, we had this moment as a team when we were going into all this, like almost like putting, our armor on, like this is going to be a rough, few months or however long it's going to take for us to get through this. And it actually has been huge growth for Headbands of Hope. And there's so many people that bought from us, so many first-time customers in the past month that maybe never would have discovered us had it not been for this. And so I've been really proud of my team as the way that they've been handling the pivot as well, and just committing to it. Because I think that sometimes when you pivot, the degree of the pivot matters. Sometimes you're like, well, we can try this, get our toes into it. But for Headbands of Hope, we just went all in. We just went all into donating masks. We got a partnership with Zappos to donate more masks. And it just really kind of caught fire from there. And I think throughout all this, it's also shown us that new problems also mean new solutions. So especially in business, things that you've never experienced before can also be breeding grounds for innovation. One of the things that we do at Headbands of Hope that's a big part of our business is wholesale, stores. And a lot of those stores are shut down and struggling. So we dropped our minimums. We ended up, we were supposed to go to this trade show in April that ended up not happening. And it was a trade show for wholesalers to pick out products. And it's a pretty big part of our business that we do almost 8 times a year. And my wholesale director got the idea to do a virtual trade show. So we went in the warehouse and she set up a booth like we would at a trade show, and went on YouTube Live at 1:00 on Friday, sent it out to all of our retailers and, our email list, and people tuned in as she was going through our new products, our headbands that serve as facial protection, and got more orders than she would have when we go to the trade shows without the overhead of traveling and booth costs. So there's definitely been some new things that have been created as a result of this that we'll definitely keep doing as a result.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point that you bring up, which is that these new problems require new solutions. I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's an important thing to think about, because when you do start your business, when you start your first business, you are here to solve a problem too. Now, yes, there's a huge onslaught of new problems, new environment that we're in, but it's still the same, I think, mission or lifeblood of an entrepreneur, which is to go out and solve these problems. I think that's important to be mindful of and kind of keep in context that, hey, this is not a new job that the entrepreneurs have. This is the job of coming in and solving problems. So when you as a team decided, okay, let's go all in on this new mission that we have to donate these masks, what did you find was I guess easier than expected? Like, you were coming in, maybe you saw some things that might have been a challenge, but as you're going through this transition, what did you find went smoother than you had expected?
That's a good question. I think that the marketing aspect, when you make pivots in your business, you sometimes have this fear of like, how do I explain this? How will people know? Where can we reach them? And people were so in tune with what was happening in hospitals and the shortage of masks that it was easier to explain this shift. And the rally of support behind it was incredible right out of the gate. I mean, our engagement on social media went up. We had different, influencers and celebrities sharing this. And so I feel like that initial spark of the marketing campaign was easier than what we had expected it to be.
Was there a lot of planning involved? I think that when businesses, especially during this time, are working to make shifts and make changes, they do, of course, have to announce and change the messaging or launch. And there's just so much activity right now. There's so much news, so much attention kind of being grabbed right now. How did you find ways to kind of break through?
We kind of went where the fire was, with everyone talking about that there was a shortage of masks. We were there to be that solution for people. So yes, it can be hard to cut through the noise, but I think if what you're doing is relevant and it's also providing something positive, I think that a lot of people were and still now getting really down in the doom and gloom of the news. And if you're there to not just be relevant, but also show the upside of all of this, it really perked up a lot of attention. And there are so many companies doing that right now, like that. It's cool to see the ability to pivot in business and how business can truly be that vehicle for change.
And what about what was harder? What was surprising, or things that were unexpected challenges that came up from this shift?
We had one of the biggest influx of orders that we've ever seen at Headbands of Hope. And so on the operations side, we weren't prepared for that. And, we have our own warehouse, we have staff in that warehouse, and they were spending 12 hours a day getting orders out. And a lot of the orders that we were going to ship ended up being late, past the date that we typically promised that customers will get their orders. And so one of the things that we decided, a long time ago in our business, that is we were just going to be totally transparent, transparent about our mistakes, transparent about our mission, transparent about where our headbands go after each purchase. And so we ended up having to send thousands of emails to people that their order was going to be late. And I think it was like 2% of those people asked for refunds. And it was really cool to see that the camaraderie of our customers and that community was also really forgiving of small businesses trying to just keep juggling balls in the air and make ends meet. I remember one of our customer service representatives, she sent this email to everyone and she copied and pasted all of the really positive responses from people after we sent out those like late delivery emails. And the subject line was, "People are good." And because it was this major source of anxiety for all of us, we want to make a good first impression as a business. And for that order to be late, is typically not our character. But I think we gained more trust and more appreciation through being transparent about it and addressing it and not just like blaming the postal service. And people, one of the things said, like, because of how you handled this, I'm now going to be a lifelong customer. So that was a challenge that ended up being just a really cool pillar of Headbands of Hope now.
Yeah, that's amazing. So in terms of the logistics and the supply chain on the donation side, you mentioned 100,000 masks to how many hospitals, and how did you set up the logistics of donating these masks?
So we actually got connected with someone at U.S. acute hospitals, who they oversee like 200 hospitals around the country. So it was great from a logistics side because we could just send the masks directly to them, and then they dispersed it to the hospitals that needed it most at that time. So it was really great to have that partnership, and it was a amazing moment for our business when we called them and said, "Hey, we have 100,000 masks that we want to donate," because we wanted to donate them in bulk instead of shipping, a lot of boxes. We wanted to ship one shipment. And it was very tearful, like on the other end of the phone, which made us tearful. And I think this experience has also just shown the humanity of everyone, whether you're in business, whether you're a healthcare worker, just even though social distancing is a thing more than ever, I think connection is too.
Awesome. So headbandsofhope.com is the website. How are you planning to I guess, what are you doing looking ahead over the next year or so, or forever, how long this will last? How are you planning to kind of adapt the business over time to withstand if this takes longer than expected?
Yeah, I think like everyone, we're staying loose. I think that that's something that is kind of hard to do in business because you want to have things set in stone. You want to have a 6-month plan and a 1-year plan. And we're taking things more loosely than we have before. We're staying on the masks donation now. We're staying flexible with our retailers in terms of minimum orders. And but more than ever, we're creating more products that serve multi-purpose headbands and facial protection. So that's the one thing that we're sure of that we don't think is going to go away for a while, that we think we can do really well. But just like everyone, I think that this idea of uncertainty can either be really fearful, like this impending doom, or it can be like just endless possibilities. And so we're trying to choose the endless possibilities side of the uncertainty spectrum.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your inspiring story, Jess. In this final update for this episode, I'm joined by Gamal Codner from Fresh Heritage. Fresh Heritage sells high-quality grooming products for men of color who care about how they look and feel. In this episode, you'll learn why he tripled their marketing budget and how it affected his business. All right, Gamal, so tell us more about your business. Describe your business to us and what you sell.
Yeah, so my business is Fresh Heritage, and we sell personal care and grooming products for men of color with beards.
Awesome. So when COVID-19 hit, the pandemic hit, a lockdown hit earlier this year in the United States, what was your immediate reaction?
Man, I was freaking out. I wasn't sure how bad or how long this thing would go. And I spoke with some of my advisors, and they essentially said, 3 things may or may not happen. You got to be mindful of your cash flow, and prepare if half your revenue just dropped. You want to make sure that you guys are in a position to not have to shut your doors down. 2, how long it was going to take for you to receive product from your vendors, especially for other stores who buy from China or overseas. That was problematic for us because we source some of our packaging, labels, and boxes from overseas. And then also how it's going to impact our ability to deliver our products to our customers, because the postal service and stuff like that was severely impacted. So I ultimately decided that, if we were going to go out, I wanted to go out swinging. So instead of scaling back, I actually 3x'd our ad budget and just really ramped up production on stuff and came up with a plan to launch additional products, because I was like, hey, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out swinging.
So you mentioned that you have advisors that you consulted for during these when the COVID-19 first hit. Tell us more about how you built the relationship with those advisors.
Yeah, so I really believe that it's important to learn from others who've been where you want to go, so you don't have to make those same mistakes. And so I did some research and found some people who sold to my same demographic, because it's almost difficult to sell to our demographic. And so I saw someone who'd built an 8-figure company. Their company does north of $20 million a year, and I just reached out. But outside of that, him specifically, I'm always in masterminds. I'm always investing in new courses, just to be in an ecosystem of people who are doing what I'm doing and who I could learn from. And at the same time, I'm also making sure that I'm doing my part to give back for others who want to be in a position to grow their brands to where my brand is.
Okay, so to go over those tips that they gave you again is first to be mindful of your cash flows. You don't want to run out of cash and have to close your doors. Be mindful of getting inventory in, and then also how to be mindful of being able to deliver the products to your customers. But then you also went with this approach of wanting to go out swinging 3x your ad budget, ramp the production, new products. So it sounds like you took some, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but you took some advice, and some advice you're like, you know what, let me do my own things. So tell us more about that. How did you come to the decision of let me go out swinging, let me spend more on advertising and marketing, which typically people pull back on during uncertainty, but you ramped up production and came out with new products. Tell us more about that thought process.
Correct. So a large part, so I checked cash flow wise, and I'm very, I would categorize myself as a frugal person. So I was comfortable there. I create all my products in the US. It's US made for the most part, except for like boxes and packaging is outside the US, but all our core ingredients were in house. I did go through some issues there with our production and our supplements and vitamins. But I ultimately realized that I assessed myself and I assessed others where my competitors could buy from. And I realized that they were probably going to scale back. A lot of them were heavily invested in retail and selling through retail channels. And I know a lot of them had lower cost of goods because they outsourced from overseas, which usually is a disadvantage for me because I have more premium products. But I just recognized an opportunity that the other options for my consumers to buy from were probably going to have to scale back. And so I knew that was a great opportunity for me to be a voice and to build a real stronger bond with my community.
Got it. Okay, so let's start with 3Xing your ad budget. So I'm sure you didn't do this overnight and just like triple your budget. So tell us about how you approached growing your marketing budget or your marketing spend for your business.
Funny enough, I actually just tripled it overnight. So, I mean, I wouldn't recommend everyone do that. But for me, it was just as simple. Like when people talk about ads, they think ads are going to fix their business. Ads just amplifies what's already there. And so I knew how to find my audience. I knew the sales funnel that converted. I knew what our conversion rates were. So I just literally went in, launched some campaigns that tripled the budget I had the day before. And they performed well out the gate. And in the meantime, I worked on increasing our store's conversion rate so that I could maximize the amount of conversions I was getting for the ad spend. So I ended up scaling ad spend back down while keeping the same amount of revenue coming through. But it's because I focused on converting more of the customers that my ads are bringing to the store.
Got it. Okay, so when you just go in and up your budget by 3x, do you have to make any other changes like bring in more creatives or more angles for your ads? Like any changes there when you scale up your budget like that?
Yeah, absolutely. They can get fatigued really quickly. And so, as a support to this initiative of really growing our revenue, we definitely we hired an ad creative agency, which, all they were responsible for was helping us create creatives. And I also worked with some folks locally and really reached out to our influencers to get some more user-generated content, because even during this pandemic, quote unquote, I've seen a lot of the creatives that work well still be just really simple user-generated content. And so the good thing about having a bigger budget is I was able to test things a lot faster and get back results on my hypotheses and tests a lot sooner. So it's been that way since the start of the pandemic. Like user-generated content is still outperforming like professionally high-res type production videos and photography, which is a good thing for me because it cut down on my time, my turnaround time for dropping new creatives in some of my ads.
Do you find that's true across I know you work with a bunch of different brands and different industries. Do you find that's true across the board that user-generated content will perform better than a professional photo shoot?
Yep, I have. So you're right. I coach a couple of dozen entrepreneurs on how to use ads to grow their business. And we actually went through that specific scenario. I have someone who's in my program who's a very dope creative, has a lot of professional background in that. And we tested that out with more of a user-generated content person, product in use. And that's been performing really well. And it's in a completely different industry, completely different demographic. So I think that's just really true right now with a lot of people online, because why this has been working is because the average daily use of Facebook and Instagram has shot through the roof. It has been more than the typical average daily user through Cyber Monday, Black Friday. That's because everyone's working from home, and we all know work from home just means do some work for a little bit and then jump on IG. And so there's so many more eyes on there. And so I think what's going on is people are aware of being sold to, but they don't want that. But at the same time, they really want to consume shareable viral content. And so TikTok style content where it's like quick and funny and humorous and something you can share, or any kind of really engaging thing, I see those types of content doing really well for ad creators and just like social posts in general.
Got it. Did you find that it was cheaper to advertise during this time, or was it more expensive to reach your customers?
No, way cheaper, because a lot of big box advertisers pulled out. And so how the ads work is it's like an auction, and you're all paying to try to get to the same consumer. And so pretty much all of the travel big brands, all of the hotel, flight, airlines, all those guys pulled back. A lot of big box retailers, they pulled back. And so that just created cheaper auctions. And so I saw my CPMs drop like to about a third. So I increased my budget by 3x, and then my CPMs dropped about at least half to a third of what it used to be.
Now, you mentioned that you wouldn't just blindly increase your budget without making sure that your funnel throughout was airtight as well. So you mentioned that you went to your sites or the rest of your funnel to make sure they could increase the conversion rates as well, or work on that a little bit more. Tell us more about that. What were some changes? What were some things you discovered and the changes that you made to increase conversion rates?
Yeah, good question. And this is funny, but there's no like tried and true thing to do that it's guaranteed to work. But there are some things that you should look at that you could make some adjustments that could work. The very first thing I did was I noticed that my mobile site converted a lot different than my desktop traffic site. And so I had to make a decision based on my desktop was converting way higher. And the changes I made initially dropped that, but I had to make a decision on like which traffic I was going to overcommit to. And since social is mostly mobile, like 90% mobile, I made a change to that. And so if depending on who your customer base is, your age and demographics, how they consume your content, some of these changes that work well for mobile optimized sites kill conversions on desktop. And so that was one of the things I had to learn, that I couldn't just be a general kind of all-purpose change. I had to be real specific. And so simple things like having to get more people to my cart, those are one set of changes, where it's things about like placements and just using heat maps to realize that people weren't even going to a certain point in my website. So there was no use even putting my best selling product there. And it was just checking out individual conversion rates of products and adding more of that to the parts of the websites and rearranging my website to add those hot products in the place that most people visited on my site. And then there were specific changes that I made on my actual cart to help conversions as well, just to make it easier for people to reach the checkout page. So removing a lot of the steps and processes and removing a lot of the required information on the checkout and stuff. So it was just a lot more seamless and easy for people to give me their money.
I think out of the box, a lot of users, a lot of other merchants might have these kind of nice to have but unnecessary fields that add the friction. What were some things that you removed that just we really didn't need it, that other people might want to reconsider removing from their checkout process as well?
Yeah, like some of the things were like the secondary address line that was optional, or took that out. Company name, took that out. What else? Like having phone and email, took that out. Having like middle initial, all that stuff, took all that stuff out. And just giving the real basics, just name, one type of contact information, one address line, and that's it. And a big one that I saw across some of my students that I coached, they required you to create an account, and they just made it very difficult for people to actually just get the product that they've been shopping for.
Makes sense. Do you recall what the change or the increase in the conversion rate was during these changes that you made?
Yeah, I actually saw a 100% increase. So I doubled. So if you're doing 3, it's 6. If you're doing 2, now 4. So it was a significant increase.
That's amazing. So not only did you increase the budget, but then also increase the efficiency of the traffic that you were driving to your site. Now, what about like existing customers? Or are there certain things that, because your product is your brand, the business you run, the store you run, is very much like repeat customer, I guess, conducive. What changes did you make there to encourage or to increase the repeat purchase behavior of your customers?
Yeah, that's actually a very good point that I was going to bring up. So we also made a mental shift to take our focus away from like customer acquisition and customer acquisition costs, which I originally started off with. And I told you that I lowered my budget, and I shift the focus to customer lifetime value. And because we have a consumable, we made a very diligent effort to increase our subscription program. And over the last like 120 days, we've grown our subscription program by 450%. So almost 5x in the amount of members on our program. And so we just made it, one, we like really tapped in tune with the issues and problems of our consumer early on. So, for a man of color who grooms himself, our customer base is usually like really cool professionals who have important jobs. Now they're working from home, got their kids running around and playing, making all sorts of noise. They can't do conference calls, and their families concerned about what's going to happen. And so there's a lot of pressure on them. So we just really got ourselves in the minds of our consumers and communicated with them in a way that built more trust. And then we found the value proposition in our product that would incentivize them to want to, commit to having our product in their lives to help them get through this time. And then we also really hammered our membership program. And so we didn't call it a subscription program. We called it a membership program for a lot of psychological reasons we probably don't have time to get into. But we saw that helped a lot. And then we built out email and, just messaging and ad campaigns to really incentivize and remind people of the benefit of joining and becoming a member of our program. But that was something I wanted to do because that also took a lot of pressure off of me, because I knew if I grew my membership program, then that would take a lot of the, kind of mystery about what the future holds for our business off if we knew we had some reoccurring, consistent income coming in through the company.
Yeah, I think the concern that your customers had about, their lives are kind of flipped upside down. What's the economy going to be like? Are they going to be able to keep their jobs? Like, these are all fears that I think anybody out there that's listening, they know that their customers have as well. And you mentioned that you found ways to address that. Can you speak more about that? How can merchants out there try to be kind of on the side of their customers rather than someone that's just looking to take their money during these uncertain times?
Yeah, so with my product, it's a niche product, so it's probably a little more difficult to understand. So I'll use an example with my students because we kind of went through this exercise for everyone. One of my students sells really high-end makeup. She's a celebrity makeup artist, and she launched a makeup line, and it was doing well, but it's a premium product. And she thought, man, no one wants to spend all this extra money during these times. Like, who am I to ask people for their money? But what we realized in going back through their customer profile is that their customers really needed their product at a time like this, and they needed some help other ways. And so a lot of these people, these women, would go to their job and sit in cubicles and never have to see anyone each day. So they would, having their makeup done and being on point wasn't as important. But now they're forced to sit, 1 foot away from a camera and sit on Zoom calls with their president of the company or their boss's boss, and they're being recorded, and there's a lot of anxiety around that. And so I just kind of changed her perspective and just reminded her of like, hey, why you started this company is because you wanted to help women look and feel their best each day, and now is the time to shine. And so we, talked through that and hit some of those talking points, and also realized that, her brand could, in order to succeed and help her customers, it wasn't only about makeup tutorials. It was about quick makeup tutorials for work because you're limited. And it was also providing some advice on how to work from home better, like Zoom etiquette, or how to find better lighting and mics and stuff like that. So how to manage your time better working from home. And so her customer profile kind of shifted. And I just wanted to make sure that she understood that and was able to meet the customers where their new needs emerged. Does that make sense?
That does. I think that's the most inspiring thing I've seen during these times is how entrepreneurs don't just kind of toss their hands up in the air and say, well, that's my business. Everything's done now. They're finding ways to adapt. And I think one key thing you're pointing out so far is that you don't have to just go all of a sudden change your entire company, change your product, but you can still keep the same thing, but change the way that you are serving your customers in other ways. Like it sounds like for your student, it was about the kind of content, the kind of messaging that you can now try to solve it, almost like a different problem that they're facing, but using again the same product that they've been currently selling. I think there's a almost like sometimes a rash decision to say, let me come up with new products to address these times. But sometimes it could be much smaller than that and much less intensive, much less risky approach, which is in your students' case, it was around changing the kind of content that they were producing for their customers.
Yeah, because what happened then is that their ideal customer knows that they can now come to this company because they understand the pain, they understand their problems, and they're a resource for all of the things that's just happening in their lives that seemingly just turned upside down. And so they created almost like a magnet to more of their customers, and they created a stronger bond with their customers and their community. And naturally, that's going to just result in some sort of financial exchange for a product that's improving their lives.
Awesome. So now you mentioned as well, you did ramp up production and come up with new products during this time too. Tell us more about that. Like, what was the thought process behind? Well, I guess ramping up production makes sense if you are selling more. What kind of new products did you come out with at this time?
Yeah, we just completed our line, and so we sell grooming products, premium and natural grooming products to men of color with beards, and a lot of our products are inspired from our origin story. We went to North Africa and spent some time at a local village and just realized all of the grooming traditions there in North Africa, and we brought it back. And we always wanted to, because I'm Jamaican and from the Caribbean, we always wanted to add additional products that were inspired from the grooming traditions in the Caribbean because there's many. And so we launched additional beard oil scents, and we launched a beard and hair wash and a conditioner, and just a complete system for men to just have a complete grooming system, all inspired by natural and organic ingredients from all around the world and in different kind of African diaspora spots. So South America, the Caribbean, and different parts of Africa.
Awesome. Now, when you're looking ahead, not knowing how long this is going to last, what are the plans that you're putting into place now, or you're planning to put into place over the next year or so to make sure that you can sustain long term?
Yeah. So what this has really taught me is that we shouldn't really rely on one source, both traffic, because that can change over day, like product, and also a vendor. So definitely having a plan B and C vendor, because that vendor could go out of business and you can be screwed. That's happened to some people who are in my circle, and so that was important. So the importance of having multiple vendors and relationships, and then also this was just a reality check for us of so many people being impacted. We are also launching into wellness, and so that's a really big initiative for us, and just wellness products like supplements and vitamins to specifically help people of color get access to really good, high quality products that's going to change not only how they look on the outside, which our products do now, but really impact how they feel and change their bodies from the inside out. And so I'm really, really excited about that, because I've just noticed during this time how important it is for self-care and personal care of your bodies.
Awesome. So freshheritage.com is the website for the store. And then where else can people find you?
We're really active on Instagram, is our best social platform. So Instagram and Facebook. So freshheritage.com is the website. If anyone has any additional questions for me, Gamal Codner is my Instagram profile. That's where I'm most active. Happy to answer and provide any feedback there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gamal. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Shopify Masters, the e-commerce podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs powered by Shopify.